Welcome back to Deadball TV. Today we're doing Group B of the Asian Round 3 World Cup qualifiers. These are my predictions for the 6 matches kicking off in the September window. If you guys have not seen Group A, make sure you pause this video immediately, open up a new tab, watch Group A first, and then come back and finish this video. My Group C predictions will be dropping shortly after this one on the channel, so if you want to see that and all the other Asian footy videos here on Deadball TV, the best place on YouTube for Asian footy content, make sure you hit subscribe. Also, if you guys could smash the like button, that would be much appreciated. The first game in Group B that we're going to talk about is South Korea versus Palestine in Seoul, which is actually the first ever meeting between these two teams, which is quite interesting. I feel like only in Asia and maybe Africa are you still, in 2024, getting the first ever meetings between two sides. Maybe in like CONCACAF too, with Mexico and the Virgin Islands, I don't know. Now, looking at how South Korea did in round 3 of the 2022 cycle, they finished in second place with 23 points from 10 games, just a couple points behind Iran. Now, something I noticed both while I was watching those games and looking back at the data is South Korea really struggled to score. 13 goals in all of round 3 last time around. 1.3 goals per match. That's pretty low for an Asian superpower like South Korea, and I want to ask you guys, the audience, right now, do you think that was Paulo Bento, who never really had a very high-flying offense when he was in charge of South Korea? Do you think it was the nature of the group last time around with teams like Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Iran, very defensively sound teams? Do you think it was a mixture of both? Do you see this kind of low-scoring South Korean offense showing its head again in the 2026 cycle? Let me know down below in the comments. I mean, for real, 6 of the 10 games in round 3 last time, Korea scored 1 goal or less. For a team with the attacking talent of South Korea, that's a little underwhelming. Now, that being said, Korea was undefeated at home last time around with 4 wins and 1 draw. Now, that 1 draw was against Iraq, which happened to be the first game of round 3. I guess what I'm asking is, South Korea upset alert? No, I really don't think so in this case. Crazy stat for y'all here. South Korea's last competitive loss at home was 11 years ago, 2013, in a World Cup qualifier when Iran beat them 1-0 in Ulsan. That was a long time ago. God, what was I doing in 2013? Nothing good. You know, that was probably the beginning of my simping for Asian football, about 2013. Now, South Korea are definitely the favorites to win the group, but there's a lot of question marks with this national team. Young Bo-hung coming back as Korean manager. What is that going to look like? Can he fix the problems with this team that Jurgen Klinsmann was unable to fix? I guess we're going to see. I don't know much about Myungbo's play style when he was the manager of Ulsan. I mean, I was looking up the stats. It doesn't seem like they scored a bunch of goals, but I would need a Korean footy expert to let me know kind of tactically what can we expect now from this South Korean side, because I frankly don't have the time to look into it. I still got to record Group C, and goddamn, the qualifiers are like a week away. Where does the time go? I think we can say what we want to about South Korea's disappointing Asian Cup campaign and how they've been kind of disappointing, you know, even outside of that, dropping points at home against Thailand, but this is still one of the best teams in Asia, and they've still only lost 1 of their last 10 games, which was the semifinal match against Jordan. It's going to be really difficult for any team, I'm talking Japan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, whoever, to beat South Korea, much less Palestine. Speaking of Palestine, they are debutants in round 3, so congratulations to them. But now comes the point of the video where Jack starts hating a little bit. If we look at how they played in round 2, let's be objective about this. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. The 2 losses were against Australia, the only good team in the group. Your 2 draws came against Lebanon, the team that, quite frankly, you should be beating if you're Palestine. Don't talk to me about context. I need 1 dub there. And the 2 wins you got were against Bangladesh, a truly finished national team. So you'll excuse me if I have serious doubts about Palestine. I don't even know what the last good Palestine game was that we saw. It was probably the round of 16 against Qatar. And I'll give credit where it's due. It was a very impressive match. They scored first and looked like they were about to eliminate the hosts, but then they did what Palestine does every single time, and they dropped points. They can't get it done against the big teams. Defensively, I'm not too worried about Palestine. It's really the midfield and the attack where I have serious question marks. I think if Palestine want any hope of advancement from this group, you need to score goals. Defensively, I think they'll be okay, but where are the goals going to come from? In the last 15 games, Palestine have scored more than 1 goal twice. That was against Hong Kong and Bangladesh. I'm sorry, but national teams of that caliber, they're gone now. You're playing with the big boys. Can you score 2 goals against the big boys of Asia? I don't think they can. I think Palestine does kind of play up when the stakes are high, as we saw at the Asian Cup. But both before and after the Asian Cup, they've been lackadaisical. And that's the objective truth. Good vibes and a beautiful Hollywood storyline are not going to get you to the World Cup. So the question for Palestine is, what version are we going to see in round 3? Are we going to see the version at the Asian Cup where they drew UAE, where they beat Hong Kong 3-0, where they put up a solid fight against Qatar? Or are we going to see qualifying Palestine where you can't beat Lebanon? My prediction for this game, I'm going South Korea 2, Palestine 0. I don't think it's going to be a bloodbath. I think there are too many question marks on the Korean side, and I think the Palestinians are pretty good at not getting blown out and keeping it respectable, so that's what I'm going with. Next match is Iraq versus Oman in Basra, which is historically a very even contest. Now, if we look at round 3 for Iraq in 2022, it was a bit of a rough campaign. They were only able to get 9 points from 10 games, but I think there's several factors that are drastically different this time around. Number 1, I think the team overall is just stronger. Number 2, I think Jesus Casas is a much better manager and one of the better ones in Asia. And number 3, they actually get to play games at home this time. There's not going to be any more neutral games in Abu Dhabi. And I would argue that Iraq at home might be the scariest, most difficult fixture in all of Asia. And I'm including all the big teams in that. In the last 15 games at home, Iraq have 13 wins and 2 draws. That is disgusting. I mean, that's probably as close as invincible as you're going to find in Asia. I don't even know when their last loss was at home. Frankly, it was probably so long ago that it is irrelevant to this conversation. Fun fact, it was 2018 against Qatar. 6 years ago. 6 years without a home loss. Smash that like button for Iraq's home record. That's crazy. Speaking about Oman briefly, I think they had a very respectable round 3 campaign in 2022. They were able to pick up 4 total wins, 2 of which actually came away from home, including a 1-0 stunning victory against Japan in Japan. Now, where I start to get bearish on Oman is I don't really think defensively they're as good now as they were 3 years ago. I think this team is a bit on the decline. They have looked better under their new manager. I think he's Czech, Yaroslav Silhavi, but they've played pretty poor teams. You'll have to forgive me, but I'm not going to give too much credit when you beat Malaysia without their best players, Chinese Taipei, and you get a draw against Kyrgyzstan in a pretty much meaningless game. I'm going to need to see more before I'm buying more Omani stock. Now, Oman isn't bad. They're kind of like between Palestine and UAE. That's where I would put them in the power rankings within Asia right now. If you guys have them somewhere else, let me know in the comments. They're still a tier 2 power, but I think Iraq, to use a Pokemon analogy, they're evolving into a tier 1. Now, a couple silver linings for Oman. The average age of this squad is pretty old, 28 to 29, so I think there's a possibility for a kind of one more hurrah campaign with the line led by Al-Sabi and Salah. They have some good players here, and I think defensively, you look at them, 6 clean sheets in the last 10. That's a good record. Can that be enough? Can they combine those 2 factors together with a new manager and try to get a result here? I don't know. Iraq's defense is not as good as Oman's, but I think the attacking firepower of the Iraqis plus Jesus Casas' tactics are going to get it done. I think this is going to be a close game. I'm going Iraq 1, Oman nothing. Let's see what happens. Next up, we have Jordan versus Kuwait in Amman, Jordan. Now, let me know right now in the comments, is there a bigger question mark in all of Asian football than Jordan? The team that out of nowhere, seemingly, they made the Asian Cup final. Now, Hussein Amuta, the Moroccan manager, is out, and he's been replaced by a new Moroccan, Jamal Salami. Will this result in anything fruitful for the national team? I really don't know. I don't know anything about this guy. I was looking at his CV, and he doesn't have any experience as an international manager for the senior team, but he was in charge of the Moroccan U17s and U20s at some point. And he's won a couple things domestically in Morocco, but I think this appointment is a gamble, and filling the shoes of Amuta is going to be difficult. Can this new guy, Salami, harness the power of what I would say is arguably the best attacking unit in all of Asia? Yes, I'm including Japan, South Korea, Iran, Saudi Arabia, whoever else you want to throw in there. This Jordan attack is crazy. Check out these stats from the last 10 games from their front 3. Musa Al-Tamari, 7 goals, 1 assist. Ali Olwan, 4 goals, 1 assist. and Yazan Al-Naimat. 6 goals, 8 assists? Nah, that is absolutely ridiculous. I'm telling you guys, they are a better big three than Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. It is absolutely filthy what these guys do for the national team. So the potential for Jordan is they maintain form and they qualify for the World Cup. The floor for them is that Amuta was a tactical and, I guess, man management god, and now Jordan are going to fall off. I think what will help Salami is the fact that this first international window for Jordan in round 3 is by far their weakest. They get to play Kuwait, the worst team in round 3, at home, and then Palestine at a neutral venue. So he's going to have a couple games to at least get familiar with the squad. But I would expect Jordan to come out and look slightly worse than what we've seen in the past 12 months. I really think Jordan are the must-watch team of this window because it could go really well or it could go really bad. And if it goes bad against this level of competition, then all of a sudden Oman, Iraq, and South Korea, they're massive winners. Now Kuwait, I'm just going to say it, y'all, this team is really bad. I don't know what the excitement, I don't know what the bull case is here for the Kuwaiti national team. I'm not the guy to present that. I'm not the guy to make that argument. The way that they scraped and clawed into round 3 has me with negative confidence for them. It's to the point where I am truly convinced if Afghanistan and their federation were not a disaster and they were able to field their actual A team, it would be Afghanistan here instead of Kuwait. I mean, you could make the argument that India should have been here instead. And I'm sorry, but any team that is losing to India does not deserve to be in round 3. In fact, I'm throwing down the gauntlet right now for the Kuwaiti national team. In 2022, the worst side was Vietnam with 4 points. Let me know in the comments down below, over under 4 points for Kuwait in round 3. With the level of competition in this group, I think I'm taking the under. They for some reason appointed Juan Antonio Pizzi as the manager despite him doing basically nothing with Bahrain. In fact, while he was manager of Bahrain, he lost to Kuwait 3-1. He got beat down. That should never be happening. This is far removed from the Kuwaiti national team of like the early 2010s where they were actually pretty solid. I just don't understand why there are teams like Jordan who are making an Asian Cup final and they're taking a gamble on their managerial appointment. Meanwhile, Kuwait, who quite frankly have nothing to lose here, go with Pizzi? Like, what is the ceiling with Pizzi? 6 points? I don't even know. I truly think they were better off appointing some random Kuwaiti club manager and just seeing what he can do. Baffling decision for me. I'm going Jordan 3, Kuwait nothing. I'm sorry. I just think outside of Kuwait City that Kuwait doesn't have a prayer. And even though Jordan are a massive question mark, I'm just banking on their form and talent. Next match is Palestine versus Jordan in Malaysia, because Palestine are unable to play at home, which I think is very unfair, but that's the reality. Now for Palestine, I think this is a great opportunity to steal points off of Jordan. Again, because of all the question marks that we already talked about. Jordan's away record is okay. In their last 5 away matches, not counting the Asian Cup, they have 3 wins and 2 losses. Those losses coming against Japan and Lebanon. So they are by no means invincible, although they did just beat Saudi Arabia away in Riyadh. So they could also lay that beat down. It might actually be RIP Palestine because Jordan have not lost to Palestine in their last 10 meetings. In fact, the only time that Palestine beat Jordan was in their first ever meeting in 1976. What were you doing in 1976? In the previous 6 competitive meetings between the two sides, Jordan has won 4, drawn 2, and they've outscored Palestine 17-5. So they tend to score a lot of goals here. Now with Palestine, expanding on what I said earlier, they're really lacking that signature win against a big Asian side. They can get a draw. They seem to get respectable defeats, but they don't beat anybody of note. Their manager Makram Daboub has been in charge for 25 games, and genuinely the best side that he's beaten is Bahrain. Like, I'm sorry, but we need to see more. That is not good enough. If you are only beating Bahrain, round 3 is going to be over very quickly. I was looking at the history books, and really the last victory of note for Palestine against Asian opposition was in 2019 when they beat Uzbekistan in round 2 of World Cup qualifying. That was 5 years ago, bro. Like, what have you done for me lately? So that's my challenge to Palestine. I still think this is a good opportunity for them against a Jordanian side with a new manager, I'm going to go Jordan 2, Palestine 1. I'm sorry, but I cannot sell on Jordan until I see them falter. And I cannot be bullish on Palestine until they get at least one really good result. Next up, we have Oman versus South Korea in Muscat. It's been a long time since these two teams played each other. Their last meeting was 2015, so about 10 years ago. South Korea won the match 1-0. These teams have only played once before in Muscat, and Oman actually beat South Korea 3-1 back in 2003. So we don't have a large sample size here, obviously, but South Korea have never won away. And Muscat, it's just a tough place to play, man. Oman allowed 5 goals in 5 games in a very tough group in round 3 of the last cycle. But like I said, I don't think defensively they're quite as good this time around. They do have a clean sheet in 3 of their last 5 home games, but teams like Kyrgyzstan and Palestine were able to go there and score. And if Kyrgyzstan and Palestine can score, South Korea can score. I think you can really build a bear case here for South Korea in this match. You look at key figures for the national team like Kim Min-jae, who's been struggling at Bayern Munich to start the season. You can say the exact same thing about Hwang Hee-chan, who I think has been very disappointing. You have the return of a manager that is dividing the fan base. I would say most of the sentiment is negative. The Korean FA is an absolute farce, and I think the vibes in the background are still very low. On top of that, you still have the shadow from the Klinsmann appointment. You do have Song Hyun-min and Lee Gang-in balling out, but is that going to be enough? Have we even solved the midfield problem for South Korea? Do we know what the best backline and goalkeeper combination looks like? I don't think so. I put all of this to you because I'm going with somewhat of a shock result here. I think it's going to be South Korea 1, Oman 1. I do think this is going to be a draw, and I do think South Korea are going to drop points. Lastly, we have Kuwait versus Iraq in Kuwait City. The one hope that Kuwait have of getting some points here. I really think if Kuwait even want a prayer of making the World Cup, this needs to be a win. Not a draw, not 1 point, a dub, which is a little discouraging because if you look at how Iraq played, even recently in round 2, they went to some very hostile environments in Southeast Asia, albeit against teams that they should be beating, and they took 9 points from 9 against the Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And Jakarta and Hanoi are not easy places to play. Kuwait is currently ranked 136th in the FIFA rankings. Jesus Casas, while in charge of Iraq, has never dropped points to a team ranked that low. On the flip side, Kuwait have also not beat a team ranked as high as Iraq since 2019, when they beat Saudi Arabia in the Gulf Cup. I guess what I'm saying is that I see Iraq winning this game. If teams like India can beat Kuwait, if teams like Qatar can go to Kuwait City and get a victory, I would be, I think, a hypocrite to not predict Iraq to do the same thing. Like, I'm not about to be on this channel singing Iraqi praises and then also saying Kuwait's going to beat them 1-0 at home. The last thing I'll say is that I do think at home, Kuwait are relatively difficult, and I do not think this is going to be a comfortable victory for Iraq. I'm going Iraq 1, Kuwait 0, but you guys let me know what you think in the comments. And I'll end the video by saying with teams like Iraq specifically, I need to see a couple good score lines during round 3 before I get super aggressive with my predictions for them. It's not that I'm doubting the talent because this team is stacked. It's more of the moment, right? Now that we're back in round 3, would the jitters affect the team a little bit? Or are they going to shake it off and be like, no, we are those guys and we're going to make it to the World Cup? I think they will take points off of teams like Jordan and South Korea in this group. But before I am just an absolute lunatic with an Iraqi flag over my shoulders during the video, I just got to see a little something. If they take 6 points during this window, it might be time for the Iraqi flag. And those are my predictions, guys, for Group B of round 3 of Asian World Cup qualifying. Guys, let me know down below in the comments, is there a prediction I made that you disagree with the most? What are your score lines? What do you think is the biggest thing to watch and monitor in this group as World Cup qualifying progresses? Let me know in the comments. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. Again, hit subscribe so you don't miss more Asian footy content here on Deadball TV. You can also check out our social media links in the description of this video. I'll see you guys soon for Group C.